The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today's movie, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, will make you start questioning who is sane and who is just well lit. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Well, I resemble that remark.
What do you mean?
The whole long, deep descent into madness. Maybe not quite as full as hers. I've been there.
Yeah, this was a very heavy movie.
Yeah, and labeled as a comedy. So I like a good dark comedy. And I'm not saying I dislike this movie at all, but I would not classify this as a dark comedy at all.
No, there's nothing comedic about it. It is a very heavy drama.
There were a couple of moments, but on the whole.
Yeah, there wasn't like, ah, kind of moments. It was like, oh, kind of thing. But no, it was a very heavy, emotional journey of a woman who is going through a lot. So, folks, welcome to Cinema IRL. This episode, we are talking about the strangely named film, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
Let me just tell you that you're probably not going to figure out a damn thing about the movie based on the name.
Yeah, very poorly named film. With life crashing down around her, Linda attempts to navigate her child's mysterious illness, her absent husband, a missing person, and an increasingly hostile relationship with her therapist. Linda is going through a lot.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. I've always said people get into mental health professionally, and not everyone. There are exceptions, but people get into mental health because they want to know more about what plagues them. Which is, again, nothing wrong with that. Listen, I've got plenty of mental health issues. I have nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with wanting to do something about it and learn more about it at all. I'm just noting that it doesn't surprise me to see something where it's a therapist who is losing their shit with another therapist.
Yeah, Linda rents a space for her therapy practice in this building, and a couple doors down is another therapist running his practice, and she sees him every day and has feelings for him, even going so far as whispering "I love you" when he's leaving a room, and she's sharing, oh, I had a dream and you were tickling me or whatnot, and he's not having it. He is professional, and he does not want to even indulge the notion of his client Linda having romantic feelings for him. Ironically, we see Linda then working with a patient of her own who is also sharing that he's had dreams about her, and she's shutting that down. So the irony of what she does, but then knowing as a therapist she has to shut it down with her patient is an interesting thing to watch. But what we see with Linda is she has a daughter with some sort of illness that we're never really told what it is, and a daughter that we don't really see until the end, where it might be an illusion and not really her daughter there. But
a daughter who apparently had a garden hose inside of her.
Yeah, she had some sort of tube in her, and Linda...
I thought that was a dream. I'm still not sure it wasn't. I mean, seriously, you know, like the clown with the neckerchief, and it keeps going and going, and that was the tube.
Yeah, her daughter has some sort of treatment that she's undergoing that has a tube in her stomach, and Linda every night has to put up all of these feeding packs and take her daughter to a special place, and her daughter can't gain weight easily, and so she's underweight, she's indifferent to food, and Linda is trying to manage this and doing it by herself because her husband, apparently, we learned at the end, is in the military, so he's out of town.
I think we've talked about that before in other episodes.
Yeah.
What, military people not being around? Huh.
Yeah, and she's working as a therapist. She's taking care of her daughter, and she is insanely overwhelmed. And then the ceiling of her apartment breaks, and all kinds of water breaks through, and she's forced to leave the apartment and go stay at a seedy motel.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that we saw was like this ceiling just like I thought initially that the ceiling was going to collapse and something was going to fall through that was going to crush her legs. And then she wasn't going to have legs, and that's why it was going to be, if I had legs, I would kick you. But no, her legs were just fine.
They were. It's funny you should say that, though, because that was one of 3 jump scares in this movie that I jumped back and lurched from more so than some horror movies.
And we knew they were coming. Like, you could clearly see jump scare coming. Ah! Yeah, you still got jumped.
Yeah, and we see Linda progressively unraveling with all of the weight of feeling like she's alone and taking care of her daughter, fighting with her daughter's doctor and the facility where she takes her daughter every day, and a patient who ultimately says, I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of a session, and then abandons her baby in with Linda. And it just stacks and stacks and stacks. And we see Linda slowly losing it more and more. She starts, she's smoking pot, she's drinking wine. She actually meets one of the neighbors at the seedy motel and orders Coke off of the dark web. And she is not doing well.
She was self-medicating like mad.
Every action she takes is a cry for help. And the heaviness.
Her husband was a dick, too.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't around, and he basically, she needed some support, but at a minimum, she needed some compassion and empathy. And her husband was more of the, why aren't you just taking care of this? Why don't you do that? Do this, do that. And she's breaking. And the one thing I took from this film is, okay, this kind of puts things in perspective. We all have hard times, but wow, Linda was going through so much, and there just was never a break.
No, like her professional life certainly wasn't a break. Being a therapist, like her child wasn't. I mean, there was nothing that was a break for her. It was.
And her daughter was somewhat unreasonable and demanding, and since you weren't sure what illness the daughter had, it was hard to know what that meant and how long it had been going on. And dealing with a child is difficult anyway, but dealing with a child who seems to have, temper tantrums and doesn't listen, and oh gosh,
didn't necessarily seem like the most well-behaved child, but it also could tell there's something very wrong with the child. So it's kind of hard to deal with the discipline aspect when you're clearly it's something that feels like it's life-threatening at the least.
Yeah. So what would you do if you were our main character, Linda, and you were left to care for this very high-maintenance child with no support from anyone, and you're drowning. She was drowning. It was painful to watch.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing is I don't know. I sometimes find it hard enough to take care of me, let alone a mini-me, especially a mini-me that's broken.
It's hard because when you're in the moments of high stress, and especially as a caregiver, it's hard because if you don't do it, who does? Yeah. And I know I've been in that situation in the past, and that's where Linda was, is she was there, and she didn't seem to have any family or support around, and her husband was out of town, and she had to do it all, and there was just no opportunity to take a break from it, other than the fact that she would leave her daughter sleeping and she'd take a baby monitor with her to listen to her daughter and sit outside and smoke or take some hits of pot, or even just walk around the neighborhood. She desperately
down a bottle of wine.
Yeah, she desperately needed to get away, but and she did definitely cross a line with how far she went and how long she left her daughter alone when she did that. But you also have such compassion for her because she's so trapped. When you start descending like that and you're in a trapped situation, it is scary. It is insanely scary because you can see what's ahead of you and you are powerless to stop it. It's almost like a emotional out-of-body experience of just being watching this descent that you desperately don't want to go down, but
You are.
And we see another layer to that when Linda has her meetings with her therapist, who she has feelings for, is when she desperately yells at him, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. And when you get in that situation where you're so overwhelmed, you lack the ability to find your own solutions and be resourceful because it's just piled on and it all feels just too hard.
She needed a coach, not a therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, no, really. I mean, well, okay, no, that's not true. She needed a coach and a therapist.
Yeah, those two definitely work very well together.
But yeah, she's trying to get her therapist to tell her what to do, and that's not what a therapist does.
Well, it's also not what a coach does either.
Yeah, but a coach is going to be more inclined to help you, like moving with what's pushing forward.
Yeah.
Like maybe not tell you, but craft a plan with you.
They definitely help put you in a more empowered state to move forward with more intention and direction. Whereas it's not just talking about whatever you want. You are focused on solutions. And in Linda's case, it feels like the world is just crashing in from when she can't park her car to go in and take her daughter, but she's supposed to take in her daughter, but then the parking attendant yells at her. And when the young 21-year-old girl wants to cart her when she's obviously a grown woman. And
what
just
the fuck was her problem?
Yeah, no, she was a little cray-cray.
She was horrible.
She was not a nice human being. But and that's all those little things just add up. And it also is hard too, because at some point you feel so depleted that you kind of almost start bringing those things into your life because you're bringing your worst self to everything.
You hit a certain point where sometimes you're just looking for the smallest win you can, like any form of a win. And when you're trying to get an easy win and you can't even get that, like I'm going down to get a bottle of wine so I can inebriate myself to feel a small win, and the bitch says, ID, please. Yeah,
or there's a sign that says no alcohol sold after 2 a.m. and the clerk says, I can't sell this to you. And Linda says it's 1:58, and the clerk says, well, by the time I bring this up, it'll be 2 a.m. Oh, I want to slap that girl.
I wanted to punch that girl. She was...
So one of Linda's clients, Caroline, is struggling with a new baby. And she brings the baby to the therapy session, and Linda tries to discourage her from doing that so she can just focus on herself and be present in the session and not always bring her baby. But she always brings her baby, Riley. And
yeah, that kid, when the kid gets older, that kid's going to be messed up.
Yeah, that kid, Riley, has a dad who is extremely indifferent to his existence and a mom who is so focused on his safety but yet seems detached in the process. And during one of the sessions, Caroline gets up to go to the bathroom and she doesn't come back. And so Linda, going through all of this, now has this screaming, crying baby, and her patient is left, and she calls the dad as the emergency contact, says, I'm your wife's therapist. She left. The baby's here. Can you come get it? Okay, number one, that guy was an insane jerk because he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? I don't know anything about my wife having a therapist. And you can drop off my kid because I'm too busy. What the actual F?
You could drop off? No, you can fuck off.
Yeah, no, a terrible human being.
There goes any rating we've had for this episode.
Yeah, and no reason or no wonder Caroline was the meek person she was with such an abrasive husband. So what would you do if you were Linda in that situation where this baby had been left with you and you call thinking the thing, your patient's emergency contact, and number one, they say, I didn't know my spouse had a therapist, and number two, I'm not picking up the baby.
Oh, you call the police immediately. Yeah, police or Child Protective Services, whichever one's faster.
And what about the I didn't know my wife had a therapist?
I don't care.
Well, no, I mean just in general, like talking about the things you share with spouses.
I mean,
do you think that's an important thing to share with a spouse?
That you have a therapist?
No, that you share that you do have a therapist.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like you don't have to talk to the or to your spouse about what's going on in therapy, But it's definitely important that if you're in therapy, and you should be, because every human being should have a therapist, that you share that fact with your partner. And maybe sometimes you'll want to talk about what's going on there, and maybe sometimes you just don't. So, no, the problem is even in 2025, some people just have some really effed up views about mental health still. I mean, it's getting better. It's getting a lot better. But you still have some real assholes that just aren't going to, well, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just think straight? Don't be depressed. Don't even. Just keep me off my soapbox today.
Okay. So let's look at Linda's therapist, the one who really doesn't seem to like her. And she even calls out, like, why don't you like me? And he doesn't really answer, but he obviously does not like her. And even so much of saying, like, the session's over, and she was like, where'd my 10-minute warning? I still have things to talk about. And, like, it was a very tense relationship.
Here's the thing with a therapist. The moment you lose trust in them in any way, shape, or form, that's done. That relationship's done. Like, you have to...
I don't think it was that she didn't trust him. I mean, I'm thinking more of his standpoint, where you have this patient that he very clearly did not like.
Well, if he's going to give a 10-minute warning, and he says he's going to give a 10-minute warning, and he doesn't give a 10-minute warning, like, that's a break of trust. Trust is a lot of different things. Yeah, no. If your therapist doesn't like you, you get a new therapist. I mean, like, I was shocked that went more than one session.
Yeah, and that she actually was like, I love you. But
like,
honestly,
what purpose did he serve for her?
I think the I love you thing, I don't believe that it was like she really loved him. I think she was just so desperate for connection, and probably did something that, you know, people do with doctors as well, as you start forming feelings for these people who are these, you know, saviors, these heroes, these rescuers in your life. But
Conan O'Brien's a crappy hero.
Yeah.
Crappy savior.
He played the therapist.
That was the least funny I've ever seen Conan O'Brien ever.
So what would you do, though, if someone was paying you for services, you know, therapist or otherwise, and you really did not like them?
You fire your patient.
Okay, so you just take the loss?
If you really don't like them, you have a professional obligation to fire them. Like, because you're not going to be able to be unbiased. You're bringing your own personal feelings into it. You have a professional obligation to fire that patient.
The other irony, in addition to what I spoke about earlier about her having feelings for him and then her patient having feelings for her, and how that was handled differently, where she was, you know, acting the same way as her patients, is when Caroline, the woman who ultimately abandons the baby, calls her after hours and says, you know, is this emergency? We can talk during business hours, and redirects her. And then yet she calls her therapist after hours saying, please call me. And obviously that's very intentional by the writers to show how she is capable of enforcing those boundaries when she's the therapist, but does not see them at all when she is the patient. No, not at all. I mean, I don't know if it's that she doesn't see him or she doesn't care about him, but yeah, no, there was a definite double standard here. But in the same respect, like, I get it. Like, listen, a therapist is basically someone that you can talk to and make it all about you. And that's their job, is to get paid. Now, they're supposed to do a lot of other things, but at the very least, they can be someone that you're talking to and make it all about you. And for someone in Caroline's position, like, she desperately needed that. Like, to the point that she was willing to stick with a really crappy therapist. I mean, I don't know. Caroline, the woman who abandoned her baby?
Oh, sorry, wrong one. Wrong person. Linda, thank you. Yeah, she was willing to stick with a really crappy therapist. And I don't know why she just doesn't get another therapist, or is it just because he's the only other therapist in the building?
Yeah, I mean, he's two doors down, and she can see him every day. The other interesting thing worth exploring here is how Linda starts hiding things from her husband of like, yes, I checked on this house, or, here's the picture because I came earlier, or my daughter, when she ultimately bumps into him when she's out exploring at night, which she does, bumps into him at the apartment where he's fixing stuff and says, oh, our daughter's with the babysitter, because she knows she should not be leaving her daughter alone. So she has to make up this story. But ultimately, they go back to the motel and she's trying desperately to get him away so she can supposedly release the babysitter. But what would you do if you were Linda, where you finally got caught in a lie?
She's honestly, at that point, she's already so unraveled.
Yeah, and which is why she ultimately runs down to the beach and throws herself in the water, because she is just beyond broken.
Oh yeah, no, she was so unraveled at that point. There's no longer sane thought going on in that head. You are in pure desperation mode for anything. I mean, a win could be not letting your husband know there wasn't a babysitter. I mean, you want any form of a win you could possibly get. And she just was like, lose, and you could only lose so many times before you lose your shit.
Yeah, and that's definitely why this movie was so heavy, is because it was loss after loss after, hit after hit after hit, to just, you had so much sympathy for Linda of what she was going to, and she could seriously just not get a break. Ultimately,
I mean, don't get me wrong, she was very flawed in general.
Yeah,
even before she descended, she definitely had a lot of massive flaws, but
And we saw her at the beginning of the film already in a very depleted state.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you are just looking for whatever you can get that could possibly break you out of whatever state you're in. And that's really where she was. Whatever it takes to get me out of this. So it's hard to watch, but I mean, I've been very open on the show about my own mental health issues. And I've been in similar situations, and it's hard. You feel for her.
It's not the feel-good movie of the year, but it was almost felt important to watch because, number one, it gave you a little bit more of an objective view of okay, you think you're down? This is what down looks like. And number two, just a reminder that we're all here living the human experience, and we're all going through our problems, and what you see from people is just what you see. There's so much more going on behind the scenes with all of us.
Just because you have problems doesn't mean the rest of the world doesn't. And sometimes you just can't get a break. And sometimes you really need one.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.